Hello and welcome back to all my online math students. This is Miss Baker and I am back again with another math lesson. Today's lesson is actually for anyone out there that's taking pre-algebra, and this is going to be our first official lesson for pre-algebra, the intro to pre-algebra, where we're building the foundation to all the other concepts and math topics we will discuss in the next year over the course of the pre-algebra class. So here we go, let's get started. In part 1 of lesson 1, we are discussing rounding, okay? And so this may be a review for you, but that's okay. We are going to review several topics that you may already be familiar with before we move on and really dig into pre-algebra. So let's start with rounding. We often round numbers in math to make them easier to work with. For example, the number pi, if we were to write it out as a decimal, it's 3.1416, and then it's like got an infinite number of numbers that follow the 6. So 3.1416, blah, blah, blah. Do you really want to use that number in a math problem? Do you want to add it to something, subtract it from something, multiply it by something? No. It would be very messy and very difficult. So that's why we round numbers. Also, who wants to write a number like that on paper? I know I don't. You can round numbers to any place you choose, any place value that you choose. But in pre-algebra and beyond, if you're asked to round, you'll be rounding either to a whole number, or if you're rounding a decimal, it will be either to the nearest tenth or the nearest hundredth. So first and foremost, when we round to the nearest tenth, the tenths place is the number that is the first number to the right of the decimal point. Okay, it's the number right after the decimal. So if your instructions tell you to round to the nearest tenth, then your answer should only have one number to the right of the decimal point, like 3.1, 72.5, 0.4, and so on. So you can use these next two steps to help you in growing more accustomed or used to rounding to the nearest tenth. You're going to draw a vertical line after the number in the tenths place. Okay, so draw a vertical line after that number. It'll be between the number in the tenths place and the number in the hundredths place. That line tells you, okay, the number to the left is the number I'm trying to figure out if I'm rounding it or not, right? That's the number in the tenths place. Am I going to round this number or not? The number to the right of the line is going to indicate whether or not to round. So remember that if that number that's on the right of that vertical line is 4 or less, then you will not round. If the number to the right of the vertical line is 5 or more, then yes, you will round. You'll round up to the next number. So let's see an example of what it looks like when we round to the nearest tenth. The number we're rounding is going to be 12.364. That's right here, 12.364. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a vertical line after the 3 that's in the tens place. And that's shown here, 12.364. Here's our vertical line, okay? And so this is the number that we're looking to round. Are we going to round it up or not? Well, we will know by looking at this number on the right, and it's a 6, which is greater than 5, which tells us, yes, we will round up. So this number will become a 4. All right, so here's them showing you. You're going to look at this number here on the right. After the line, if it's 5 or more, round the number up to round the number in the tens place up. So we are rounding up to 12.4, and that will be our answer. Round to the nearest hundredth. So when we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, same thing, only it's a different place value. The hundredths place is the second place value to the right of the decimal. So the second number to the right of your decimal is going to be the number in the hundredths place. If your instructions tell you to round to the nearest hundredth, then your answer should only have 2 numbers after the decimal point, like for example 8.21 or 53.97. Think about it. If you were writing the price of something in dollars and cents, you would stop at the second number to the right of the decimal. Think of that when you're asked to round to the nearest hundredth. And we're going to use the same 2 steps to round to the nearest hundredth as we did to the nearest tenth. So here's an example of what it looks like when we round to the hundredths place. So the number we're rounding in this example is right here. It is 6.2741. Here's an image showing what we do. We draw a vertical line directly after the number in the hundredths place. So right here between the 7 and the 4 is our vertical line. 7 is the number we're looking at to see if we're going to round it or not. And number 4 on the right will tell us which way to go. Do we round up or not round? Well, 4 is less than 5, which means we will not be rounding. This is an image just showing you. We look at the 4. 4 is less than 5, which means we are going to leave the 7 the same. So our number is 6.27 after we round. And here are some practice problems. We're first going to practice rounding to the tenths place. What number in this decimal is the number that is in the tenths place? Is it the 1, the 4, the 5, the 2, or the 9? Well, they say, is it A4, B5, C2, or D9? The answer to that is B5. Tenths place is the one right here. You've got 1, or this is the tens, T-E-N-S place, ones place. There's your decimal point, and the tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So 5 would be the answer. Now round this number to the nearest tenth, and what do you get as a result? So we're going to draw a line right after the tenth place, right there. So look at the number on the right. It is a 4, which is less than 5, which means we are not going to round at all. So we are going to get rid of these 3 numbers, and we'll just have 15.7 as our rounded answer. And last example, round 62.381 to the nearest tenth. Again, I'll draw that line for you. Are we going to round the 3 up or not? Well, look at the number on the right. We have an 8 on the right that is greater than 5, which means yes, we will round up. We're going to round 3 to a 4, so we end up with 62.4. Now let's practice rounding to the hundredths place. What do you get when you round 47.175 to the nearest hundredth? Well, let's draw our vertical line. It's not going to go here like it did last time, because that was when we're rounding to the nearest tenth. We're rounding to the nearest hundredth this time, so we need to go 1 space over. Our vertical line goes right here behind the hundredths place. So the number 7, are we rounding this up or not? Well, look at the number after the line. That's a 5, so yes, we will round up to 8, and we get 47.18 as our answer. And which number is in the hundredths place in this decimal? 281.395. What number is in the hundredths place? So the second place after the decimal point, that is 9. So your answer should be 9. That concludes part 1 of lesson 1 for pre-algebra, where we talked about rounding to the tenths and the hundredths place. Thanks for watching, and remember, math totally matters.